Welcome and thank you for joining us today to learn more about the reporting requirements for the Community Development Block Grant subrecipients. Once your organization has executed an agreement with the City of San Diego, it will have monthly reporting requirements throughout the term of the agreement. By participating in this training, you will have a better understanding of all of the reporting requirements to help your organization be successful. Let's get started. This presentation will go over the following: program requirements. On the monthly basis, you'll have to submit MPRs, also known as monthly programmatic reports. We'll talk about fiscal requirements. On a monthly basis, you'll submit RFRs, known as requests for reimbursement, and we'll cover compliance and monitoring. The City of San Diego is held to a timeliness standard that is set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The City must spend the CDBG funding in a timely manner to avoid being in non-compliance with those HUD standards. This is why the City takes such care in selecting organizations with the capacity to be timely with contractual obligations. We ask that you work diligently to submit reports by the due date and work with your designated project manager to solve issues as they arise. The operating manual is created as a reference guide to assist you with any questions that you may have about CDBG. The operating manual is updated every fiscal year to help your organization with compliance and reporting questions. Overall, the operating manual is incorporated into the subrecipient agreement, covers applicable federal and City of San Diego rules and requirements, and represents minimum requirements and controls that must be embodied within subrecipients' accounting, internal controls, and financial reporting systems. We encourage you to utilize the operating manual as it is a valuable resource that can answer your questions. You can find information regarding general regulations and requirements, key provisions, program and fiscal procedures, monitoring, and technical assistance forms to use for reporting. The operating manual can be found in the Resources section of ED Grants. Once you are in the ED Grants login page, click on the Resources tab, and you will find all of the resource documents that are available to you. Next, we will cover CDBG program requirements. Monthly Programmatic Reports, or MPRs. As part of your grant reporting requirements, you must submit monthly programmatic reports. Programmatic reports are due on or before the 15th of the month for the prior month. These reports will provide statistics on individual clients served, households served, or businesses assisted, including the demographic information and income levels of the clients. The reports also provide narrative updates and descriptions of accomplishments during the reporting period. A city project manager will review monthly programmatic reports that are submitted to track timely progress of the project implementation, ensure activities conform with the scope of work and that expenditures are eligible, ensure requests for reimbursement are commensurate with reporting activities and accomplishments, ensure compliance with all federal and City of San Diego requirements, and identify any issues that require corrective action. When submitting a monthly programmatic report in ED Grants, you will need to write a narrative describing the monthly activities. To do this, you will click on the Post Awards option at the top of the page. Next, you will look for the Overview tab, click on it. Once there, please click the Edit button. From here, you'll be able to input a narrative of the monthly activities. Next, you will click the Indicators tab. Scroll down in the Performance Indicators section. You will notice the Key Indicators area. You will be able to enter a number of unduplicated clients assisted in the empty box. If you have no clients to report, please leave it as a 0 in the reporting month total. From here, you can click on the Demographics tab. Enter the number of unduplicated clients served, as well as the number of clients that are a female head of household. The definition of female head of household can be found on page 70 of the operating manual. If you scroll down on the Demographics tab, you will see the Ethnicity Race Indicator section. Here, you'll be able to enter the information of how the client identified themselves. There are 11 options to choose from. Also in the Demographics tab, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the Income Level section. When you click the plus sign, you'll be able to enter the client-identified income tier level. the client will identify themselves as extremely low income, moderate income, or non-low moderate income. The Attachment tab is where you upload any document that showcases the progress of your program or service. For example, you can upload pictures, flyers, or other program-related materials that will demonstrate work done in that reporting period. Also, if your narrative does not fit in the Overview tab, you can upload an extended narrative as a PDF attachment in this tab. Next, we will cover fiscal requirements, requests for reimbursement, also known as RFRs. For the fiscal reporting requirements, you will submit monthly requests for reimbursement, RFR reports, in the ED grant system. Requests for reimbursements are due on or before the 15th of the month for the prior month. For example, for July, the report is due on August 15th. Anticipate that RFRs will be processed within 30 days unless they are submitted late. Provide complete details and supporting documents to avoid processing delays and/or disallowances. If there are no expenditures to claim, a no claims form is required to be completed and submitted verifying that there is no claim for the reporting period. MPR submittal delays can also delay the approval of RFR submissions. If the RFR is not submitted by the designated deadline, it may be subject to longer processing time. This may also impact your performance measures. Fiscal staff will process RFRs based on their invoice date. When entering expenditures for your CDBG project, please remember to only submit eligible expenses that are described in your budget. For example, if rent is claimed and there is no rent budget, the claim amount will not be reimbursed. Submit expenses in the reporting period based on the paid date or check date. For example, if paying a July invoice in August, the expense should be claimed in the August RFR, not the July RFR. The total awarded amount for the project will not change. If a project is awarded $80,000, that amount will be the total budget for the project with no increases. Adjustments can be made between existing line items by submitting a budget amendment in ED grants. You can find a step-by-step guide on how to submit a budget amendment in the Resources section of the ED grants homepage. Please note that the availability of the administrative supplies budget is limited to the first 6 months of the project period. This ensures that supplies are used during the contract period and avoids the stockpiling of items. Please remember the following regarding expenditures and disallowances. Only include expenditure amounts into ED grants that are to be reimbursed by CDBG. Include resubmittals of disallowed expenditures in the following month's RFR. For example, if an August expense is disallowed, it must be resubmitted in the September RFR. Please refer to the operating manual for common disallowance types. Here is a screenshot of the RFR Financials tab. It will list each contract budget line item. Please ensure that the requested amount matches what is in the supporting documentation. Make sure that you select the Save button circled here before you move on. If you fail to save the information entered in this tab, the dollar amounts may zero out and the request will be treated as a zero claim, even if supporting documentation is attached. For example, if $500 is entered in the requested amount and supporting documentation supports $1,000, then $500 amount will be reimbursed. On the flip side, if $800 is entered in the requested amount and supporting documentation supports $300, then $500 will be disallowed and the $300 amount will be reimbursed. Here is a screenshot of the RFR Attachments tab. For the category you are requesting a reimbursement for, go to the Action column and select the yellow pencil. A little window will appear and you will be able to upload the supporting document for the budget. Please be mindful of how you are naming supporting documentation and ensure that it matches the appropriate expenditure description. Having a document with the wrong name and uploaded into the wrong budget line item will delay the approval process. Here is a screenshot of the Disallowance section in the Overview tab. Disallowances claimed after the allowable disallowance resubmission period of 1 month will not be considered. Please ensure when submitting a disallowance in the RFR that the disallowance information section is completed. Also, the agency will not be reimbursed for more than what was originally disallowed. Let's say $200 was disallowed and you find another $100 that you failed to claim, only the $200 amount will be reimbursed. Also note, the June RFR will be the final submission for most projects, so there will not be an opportunity to resubmit disallowed amounts for the June RFR. Uploading clear and easy-to-read documents is essential in meeting the fiscal requirements with supporting documentation. We have to be able to see the name, vendor, date, amount paid, and name of product or service on the document you are submitting. Here is an example of an unreadable document that will be disallowed. Please ensure when uploading a document that it is readable. Supporting documentation must explain the basis of the cost paid, as well as show payment dates and amounts. Subrecipients must maintain original copies and present them when they are requested by the city or by federal staff. All RFRs submitted must have supporting documents that are legible and not altered, have a detailed description of what's being claimed, include all pages of invoices. If you make a mistake on an attachment, please make sure to clearly note in the comments section or the description of the attachment that you have uploaded a corrected document. Sometimes it is difficult for fiscal staff to tell which document is the correct document because there are multiple versions. Only supporting documents for eligible expenditures should be uploaded into ED grants. Submit only relevant supporting documents. Missing supporting documents and/or ineligible expenditures will result in disallowances. Proof of payment must be submitted. This can be either bank statements or canceled checks. Please note, a check reconciliation form is required to be submitted when a bank statement clearance or canceled check isn't available. The agency has 2 months from the original RFR submission to submit proof of clearance. If not provided, the expense would be disallowed from future RFR submittals. Here are some general policies to remember for your project. Increases to the overall project budget for the CDBG agreement is not allowed. Budget line items should not be exceeded unless a budget amendment is approved. Amounts cannot be moved between the line items, personnel to non-personnel expense in a budget amendment. If a project is awarded $80,000, that will be the entire budget for the project. There will be no possibility of increases. Adjustments can be made between existing budget line items, and this will require an approved budget amendment prior to submittal. After you submit your June RFR report, your project manager will initiate the closeout. Here is a list of items that will be required for fiscal year end and/or the closeout report. A financial summary report, property records report, audit financial statements or a single audit, audit certificate of compliance, a year-end confirmation of project expenditures by funding source. This slide shows the performance indicators the city evaluates for each project. As you can see, the fiscal indicators include balance of award amount at project closeout. In other words, how much did the organization use of its total CDBG funding allocation? Total of disallowance amount at project closeout, or how much did the organization claim for reimbursement but was denied by the city as ineligible project expenses? The number of disallowances processed. How many times did staff have to deny the reimbursement of ineligible project expenses? The programmatic indicators include number of clients served, or particularly for NCIP projects, number of facilities improved completed. Projects are also evaluated on the amount of leveraged funds used for the project in comparison to what was represented by the agency during the grant application process. Next, this presentation will cover compliance and monitoring. Throughout the year, your assigned project manager will be conducting desk reviews of monthly programmatic reports and requests for reimbursement submittals to determine compliance with agreement and operating manual terms. For construction projects, project managers will be conducting reviews of certified payroll reports. Information evaluated during a desk review of monthly reports could trigger on-site monitoring, like a project manager on-site general site visit to provide technical assistance. In addition, consistent late submittals of reports, low expenditure rates, or low accomplishment results will trigger on-site monitoring. In addition, your assigned project managers will be conducting on-site general site visits to get an overview of your organization's existing program, fiscal, and administrative systems, as well as to provide technical assistance for reporting requirements and navigating the ED grant system. For construction projects, project managers will review on-site project progress and conduct worker interviews to confirm the job classifications represented and the wages that are being paid. The Community Development Division Monitoring and Compliance section will conduct an on-site program monitoring review or on-site fiscal monitoring review during the period of January through April. If you are a new project, a program monitoring review will be conducted. If your project has been funded in 1 year, a program monitoring review will be conducted. If the last annual review conducted was a fiscal monitoring review, and vice versa, a fiscal monitoring review will be conducted if the last annual review conducted was a program monitoring review. Notification of scheduled site visits will be issued directly from the ED grant system to your organization's designated primary representative. For the program and fiscal monitoring reviews, the site visit results will be issued directly from the ED grant system. If there are concerns or findings identified, required actions will be included in the notification that will include a designated completion date. Concerns or findings resulting from on-site visits conducted may impact performance report card of recipients. This also applies to monthly programmatic reporting issues, such as late submittals, required monthly programmatic report resubmissions, low accomplishments and/or expenditures, and delayed implementation and/or completion of construction activities. It is expected that all project staff read and understand the details included in the monitoring section of the operating manual. If technical assistance is needed regarding any of these details, a request may be submitted to your assigned project manager. Program monitoring reviews are conducted to determine the following. 1. Whether services and activities are being delivered in accordance with the approved scope of work. 2. Whether systems are in place to ensure project eligibility and a national objective is achieved, provision of services and activities, and compliance with agreement requirements are adequately documented. And 3. Whether the prior year's monitoring findings have been corrected and are not being repeated. The following will be reviewed during the on-site program monitoring review. Service delivery process. This is referring to how clients are selected and enrolled into the CDBG-funded project, how the CDBG services are provided and tracked or documented, and how clients are terminated from the project. We will be reviewing any records and documents that are used to document the CDBG services that are provided. These include intake or application form, sign-in sheets, or electronic attendance records. Organization staff will be asked to identify the position titles of those responsible for serving clients and documenting the project services and activities completed. Reporting policies and procedures. Your organization will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures for compiling and completing required monthly programmatic reports, such as the determination of new and unduplicated totals, family income verifications, client demographics, businesses established or expanded, job creation or retention details, housing units rehabbed, achievement of project goals, and compliance with submittal requirements. This will include discussing the written LMI verification and CDBG eligibility procedures submitting during the agreement execution process. Organization staff will be asked to have on hand samples of reports and spreadsheets maintained, as well as completed forms or other working papers that are used to compile and submit the monthly programmatic reports in ED grants. Organization staff will also be asked to list the position titles of those responsible for creating and maintaining or reviewing the monthly programmatic reports. Please note, the reviewer should not be the same person who creates, maintains, and compiles the ED grants data. If your organization does not have written policies and procedures that ensure compliance with our reporting requirements, you need to work with your assigned project manager to have one developed. Records maintenance systems. Your organization will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures of how project records are maintained, including electronic records. This includes whether your documents are secured in locked cabinets, they have access restrictions, the ease of identification of CDBG records, they are kept separate from other project records, and the length of the records retention period. Organization staff will be asked to identify the position titles of those responsible for records maintenance. If your organization does not have written policies and procedures related to project record maintenance and retention, please work with your project manager to have one developed. Participants' files. We will be reviewing project participant files to verify the following: documentation of eligibility, including city residency and annual income verification, documentation of the provision of services provided, whether the date of service and type of service provided listed in the logs, spreadsheets, or databases are also recorded in the individual participant files, whether staff notes regarding clients are dated, reflect the service units provided, include project staff signatures, and documents client progress, and whether the project files are complete per the requirements listed in the fiscal year's operating manual. Original source documentation. We will be selecting 2 to 3 monthly programmatic reports to review original project records against the data that was entered into ED grants. We will look at those documents to determine the following: if the totals listed for the sample months are accurate based on the original supporting documents reviewed, verify the method used to distinguish CDBG clients from the clients not claimed to the executed agreement, verify whether project activities conducted are consistent to what was listed in the approved scope of work, and verify the provision of quality services and compliance with record-keeping requirements. The service units provided and include project staff signatures and document client progress. Records maintenance systems. Your organization will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures of how project records are maintained, including electronic records. This includes whether your documents are secured in locked cabinets, they have access restrictions, the ease of identification of CDBG records, and they are kept separate from project records. Records maintenance systems. Your organization will be asked to discuss the written policy. Note, the reviewer should not be the same person who creates, maintains, and compiles the ED grants data. If your organization does not have written policies and procedures that ensures compliance with our reporting requirements, you need to work with your assigned program manager to This will include discussing the written LMI verification and CDBG eligibility procedures. As previously mentioned, CDBG projects providing direct services to individuals are required to obtain and report client demographics and income level data on a monthly basis. The screenshots you'll be seeing were taken from the sample self-certification forms included as attachments to the operating manual. We are now going to cover some of the issues that were encountered on conducting the last year's program monitoring reviews. When we review participant files, we will be verifying that clients are completely selecting one ethnicity category and one race category. As you can see from the red arrows included in the top portion of the slide, clients are required to make a selection of one category for ethnicity and one category for race. However, it was noted that clients were not making the required ethnicity or race selection, or were selecting multiple race categories. The other information required to be reported monthly is the total number of unduplicated clients who are part of the family and noted to be female head of household. If you look at the top portion of the slide, clients are required to make a selection on whether they are the head of household for their family. If the selection is no, there is a section at the bottom of the self-certification form that is required to be completed. A client that provides female selection in this section should be included in the total number of female head of households reported on the MPR. During our monitoring visits, we noted that this section was left blank, or the gender selection was not completed by the client. The next portion of the self-certification form is required to be completed by project staff. It is located on the top of page 2 of the sample form provided in the operating manual. Project staff are required to complete a verification of income level determined based on the client's family annual income and family size. On the sample form, project staff are required to make a selection on 2 sections of the form. During our monitoring visits, we noted that one section was left blank, or the selections were not matching. What you see here is the project staff certification section located at the bottom of page 2 of the sample form. The sections shown with red arrows are the ones required to be completed by project staff. During our monitoring visits, we noted that one or more of the sections was left blank, including required staff signature. As a reminder, the self-certification forms included in the operating manual are samples you can use and are not required. However, whether you use the sample form or incorporate the required sections into your own forms, you must ensure that the required information is obtained and reported accurately based on the selections completed by the clients and verified by project staff. For project closeout and tips, please refer to page numbers 26 and 27 of the operating manual. Closeout programmatic reports will summarize the entire project at the end of the agreement term and serve to verify the information in the MPRs. General tips and advice for completing the closeout report include: review your records management and documentation procedures to ensure that the data for reporting is being accurately captured. Use the operating manual to verify that the proper records are on file and are readily accessible. And keep files and records neat and logically arranged. Please note that audits and on-site visits can occur at any time. Fiscal monitoring reviews are conducted to determine whether the subrecipient financial systems sufficiently provides an effective control over and accountability for all funds, property, and other assets. Identifies the source and application of funds for project activities, assuring reasonableness, allowability, and allocability of costs. Assures the accurate, complete, and timely disclosure of financial results in accordance with reporting requirements for HUD and the city. Minimizes the time elapsing between the transfer of funds from the city and disbursement by the subrecipient, and addresses and implements changes resulting from concerns and/or findings identified in the prior fiscal monitoring review. The following will be reviewed during the on-site fiscal monitoring reviews. Financial management. We will be reviewing any records that are used to document the CDBG project award and expenditures, as well as any program income and interest generated. This includes how CDBG budgets and expenditures are individually identified in accounting records. Organization staff will be asked to identify the position titles of those responsible for maintaining and tracking project-awarded budget and expenditures. Internal controls. Organization staff will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures for performing a self-assessment of the organization's internal control systems, which should be completed on a regular basis. Subrecipients are expected to use a combination of procedures, specified job responsibilities, qualified personnel, and records that create accountability in the organization's financial system to safeguard its cash, property, and other assets. This includes separation of duties, where not one employee has complete control over all phases of any significant transaction, as well as ensuring measures are taken to safeguard protected personally identifiable information. Payment reporting. Organization staff will be asked to have on hand samples of reports and spreadsheets maintained, as well as completed forms or other working papers that are used to compile and complete the request for reimbursement submittal to ED grants. Organization staff will also be asked to list the position titles of those responsible for creating, maintaining, and reviewing the request for reimbursement information entered into ED grants, including the supporting documents that are uploaded. Note, the reviewer should not be the same person who creates, maintains, and compiles the ED grant submittal. If your organization does not have written policies and procedures that ensures compliance with our reporting requirements, you need to work with your assigned project manager to have one developed prior to monitoring reviews. Program income. Organization staff will be asked to discuss any type of project revenue collected, such as client fees and loan interest. Records retention and access. Your organization will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures of how fiscal records are maintained, including electronic records. They will look at if your documents are secured in locked cabinets, access restrictions, identification of CDBG records, and separation from other project records, and records retention periods. Organization staff will be asked to identify the position titles of those responsible for records maintenance. If your organization does not have written policies and procedures related to project records maintenance and retention, you need to work with your assigned project manager to have one developed. Loan financing and servicing. Organization staff will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures for any loan financing and loan services provided using CDBG funds. Procurement. Organization staff will be asked to discuss the procurement procedures completed for the purchase of goods and services utilizing CDBG funds. For projects that will be procuring goods and services, including for construction activities, it is essential that the procurement requirements section of the operating manual be reviewed in full detail. You can find this on pages 12 through 22. When advertised bids or proposals are required, your organization will have to obtain approval from your assigned project manager prior to issuance. Equipment management and disposition. Organization staff will be asked to provide documentation of any equipment totaling $5,000 or more that was purchased with CDBG funds within the last 5 years. This includes a review of the equipment and how it's being utilized, as well as a review of the inventory log maintained. Organization staff will also be asked to identify the position title responsible for purchasing and maintaining the equipment. Board financial oversight. Organization staff will be asked to discuss how financial statements, annual budgets, budget changes, and non-compliance grant issues are presented to the Board of Directors. The monitoring team will be selecting 2 to 3 requests for reimbursement submittals to review original project records against the data entered into ED grants to determine the following: if original supporting documents are being adequately maintained, verify the method used to separate CDBG expenditures from other funding sources, and verify the method used to ensure duplicate invoices are not processed. Organization staff will be asked to present original copies of invoices paid with CDBG funds for review. For personnel expenditures, this includes a review of original approved time cards and original copies of fringe benefit invoices received and paid with CDBG funds. For personnel expenditures, this includes a review of original approved time cards and original copies fringe. Organization staff will be asked to present original copies of invoices paid. The monitoring team will be selecting 2 to 3 requests for reimbursement submittals to review original project records against. When advertised bids or proposals are required, your organization will be required to obtain loan financing and servicing. Organization staff will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures for any loan financing and loan services provided using CDBG funds. Program income. Organization staff will be asked to discuss any type of project revenue collected, such as client fees and loan interest. Records retention and access. Your organization will be asked to discuss the written policies and procedures of how fiscal records are maintained, including electronic records, such as, are they secured in locked cabinets? Are there access restrictions? Identification of the CDBG records. Are they kept separate from project? You need to work with your assigned project manager to have one developed prior to January 2020, as well as measuring which should be completed on a regular basis. Subrecipients are expected to use a combination of procedures, specified job responsibilities, qualified personnel, and records that create accountability in the organization's financial system to safeguard its cash, property, and other systems. I cannot get this right. Which should be completed on a regular basis. Subrecipients are expected to use a combination of procedures, specified job responsibilities, qualified personnel, and records that create accountability in the organization's financial safeguard to its which should be completed on a regular basis. Subrecipients are expected to use a combination of procedures, specified job responsibilities, qualified personnel, and records that create accountability in the organization's financial system. This works to safeguard its cash, property, and other assets. This includes separation of duties where employees have control over. Please remember the following for ED grants. All MPRs, RFRs, and budget amendments are to be submitted via ED grants. Only one MPR, RFR, or budget amendment may be pending approval at a time. ED grants will track timely submissions, disallowances, and revisions of performance for evaluation purposes. All supporting documents are to be uploaded into ED grants. In addition to your project manager, there are resources available to you throughout the CDBG process. They can help you get a better understanding of all of the requirements for CDBG. The operating manual can be found in the ED Grants Resources tab. Also in the ED Grants Resources tab is Playing by the Rules Handbook by HUD. Other resources include CPD Income Eligibility Calculator, Title II of the Code of Federal Regulations, Sections 200.302 through 200.303, and CDD Technical Assistance Appointments available in person or over the phone. Send your questions to cdbg@sandiego.gov. Our staff would be happy to help you. Thank you for taking time to learn more about the CDBG subrecipient reporting requirements. If you have any questions, please email us at cdbg@sandiego.gov.